today we will be seeing Oracle architecture concepts. So basically in this tutorial I will be telling you how what is the actual architecture for the Oracle RAC, and what is the benefit of using Oracle RAC, and how it is implemented so that the database can be improved. So let's see what is a RAC. Basically, RAC is Oracle Real Application Cluster that allows the multiple instances to access a single database. So if you have used the single instance database, so it has basically one single instance, or you can say one single node. So here we can see multiple nodes are available in case of RAC database. So there will be multiple nodes that will be active, and it will be shared with a single storage. Okay, so this is what the definition of Oracle RAC is. That is, it allows multiple instances to access single Oracle database. So your data file will be, your control file with this file will be single, that will be shared through the storage, but your nodes will be different. So basically you are segregating the entire load on different nodes, and how they will communicate with each other. The nodes will be communicating with each other through the private interconnect. Okay, that is one thing. And users can communicate through the RAC database using the scan IP. So the load balancer will be handling this task of suppose end user is using a scan as a connection string, so they don't have to rely on the particular node. So basically they will be completely unaware about the node on which their request is getting populated. So this is the basic architecture of the Oracle RAC, where the multiple nodes are associated with shared storage, and through the scan IPs user will be connected to the database, and every node is communicating with each other through the private IP. Okay, so let's move to the next point. So basically RAC is based upon the principle of Oracle grid architecture, and it is basically used for high availability purpose and scalability. So basically you are increasing your users connections, and throughout the time your multiple nodes will be available. Suppose one of the nodes is getting down, so other node will be available during that time. So your users can access the database without waiting for database to come up on particular node which is suppose it is down. Or so high availability is basically you are improving your overall loads, as well as your you are not relying on a particular database instance to come up. In the meantime you can do the maintenance activity, or you can do patching activity, or there could be n number of things you can do in case of RAC database which you couldn't do in single instance database. Okay, so this is the one of the main point, that is the high availability and scalability in terms of number of users can be increased by adding the additional nodes on the RAC. Yeah, there will be multiple points that you need to look after if you want to add different nodes, like additional nodes that you have to handle, but you can scale without requiring any application changes. Okay, that is one thing. Let's move to the next part, that is shared versus dedicated database component in the RAC. So there will be multiple things that will be shared, and some of the points which is not shared. So we'll look each one of them. First one is shared database component real application cluster. So basically data file, control file, flash recovery logs, these are the shared components. So your control file will be unique to all the nodes, data file will be unique to all the nodes, and flash recovery logs will be unique to all the nodes. So basically there will be some shared storage areas such as NAS or SAN. Okay, and then online redo log files for each nodes. Basically they have their own online redo logs. So whatever the changes they are instance are doing, or the particular node instance are doing, that will be captured in their on logs, redo logs on their nodes. That is called the threads. Okay. Next is dedicated database components. So basically SGA, each instance has its own SGA. So SGA is basically a memory component that should be residing on that particular instance, which is started the instance. So basically, suppose in our case we have multiple nodes. Okay, so these nodes will have their individual SGA basically memory component that will be whenever I will go through the each component later. I will prepare one video for making understand memory and process components. So basically, SGA is shared global area that will be used for database, that will be used for database memory component and for processing individual database request. Okay, so basic for the time being you should be understanding that as SGA could, for each instance it is having its own SGA component. Okay, and next part is background processes. So each instance will have its own background processes. Okay, process could not be shared among the different nodes, so they will be relying on their on nodes. Okay, next one is archived redo log files. So private log of the instances can be instance, but on other node it need. So basically archived redo logs will be instance specific, but in case of any media failure or in case of any instance crash, so while starting up the instance it will require the recovery for during that time it will read certain archive log from the other node as well. So archived redo logs are dedicated to the instance only, but they will be needed during the time of recovery, media recovery. Okay, next one is alert log and trace files. So basically all the nodes, all the instances having its own alert logs and the trace files. Okay, next is Oracle Home. Oracle Home is basically instance specific. If you are not sharing the Oracle Home, so basically what happens is whenever you do the installation for Oracle RAC, so basically we'll create a separate Oracle Home on each of the instances, each of the nodes, so that they cannot be like we don't have to rely on shared storage. Suppose if you are creating Oracle Home on a shared device and later it is like that shared storage is down for some reason, so your entire database and clusterware will be failed during that case. So we'll suggest you to create a Oracle Home separately for each of the instances. This is what it is explained in this entire paragraph. So on single instance you can create Oracle database on the same server other than the database. As I said, file system is mandatory for the RAC. You can use and install your Oracle Home. In this case you will need to create Oracle ASM cluster ACFS file. The Oracle Home will be available on all the nodes in the cluster. Installing and shared Oracle database home has many management advantages in multi-node cluster environment. Out of place patching and ACFS snapshot significantly improves the patching processes, and it eliminates the database downtime when coupled with for the migration features of Oracle. So on node local Oracle database homes, the advantage it provides the ability to apply the certain one of the patches in rolling upgrade fashion. So this is case of the node local Oracle database homes. That is what we have defined. So using a local node database home is very significantly helpful during the time of patching. Okay, in rolling upgrade mode you can do the patching. Okay, next we'll move to the next part. Let's see what is there. specific RAC components. So basically, there are the major component of Oracle RAC systems are shared disk, Oracle clusterware, and clusterware high-speed interconnects. Again, the same thing, that is, you will be sharing the entire storage with the help of ASM, that is automatic storage management. Okay, Oracle provides a very flexible, high performance shared storage file system that is called the ASM. ASM is Oracle's recommended storage management solution that provide an alternative to the conventional volume management file system and the raw devices. Okay, previously what happens, we are used to use the raw devices or file system for the management of the data file. That was like very inconvenient. So Oracle come across with a new storage file system storage that is called the ASM, that help in managing the storage very efficiently. Okay, ASM uses the disk group concepts to store the data files, and ASM disk group is collection of a disk that ASM manages as a unit. The ASM volume manager functionality provides the flexibility server based mirror options, and ASM uses the Oracle managed file. And then there is some new concept called Oracle Flex ASM. Basically, Oracle Flex ASM help in management of so let's see what is this feature. This feature enables Oracle ASM instances to run on separate physical servers. So your ASM instance will be running on the physically on the different servers. Okay, with this deployment, larger cluster setups for Oracle ASM instance can support more database clients while reducing the Oracle ASM footprint on overall the system. So basically, suppose you have 3 nodes, okay, and if you want to install Oracle ASM only to the node 1 with the help of Oracle Flex, you can avoid it. In other cases, what happens, you have to create Oracle ASM instances on all of the nodes, okay, but with the help of Oracle Flex, you can remove the Oracle ASM instance from the node, specific node, that will help in reducing your overall system contention and system loads. Okay, this is what it has explained in this diagram. Let's move to the next part. With the help of this ASM CMD utility show cluster mode, you can check whether it is flex mode is enabled or not. Okay, next part is clusterware, CRS and OCR. Each of the instances in the cluster configuration communicate with other instances using the cluster manager or called clusterware. So the Oracle RAC is basically stands on the feature on something called clusterware. So every database node have its own software that will be installed on each of the cluster nodes. So it will create a clusterware stack. It is the same for Oracle RAC one node also. Oracle clusterware is a technology which unifies the server in the server form to form a cluster. Oracle clusterware is a complete free of charge clustering solution that can be used for Oracle RAC one node and even the single instance. It is shipped with the Oracle Grid. So Oracle Grid software, whenever you are installing that, it will automatically create the ASM instances along with a clusterware solution. So the CR, Oracle Cluster Registry. The OCR records the maintenance clusterware and the node membership information and the voting disk. Which act as a breaker during the communication failure. Consistent heartbeat information travel across the interconnect. With the help of private network, the communication happens between the two nodes. Okay. So Oracle Clusterware 19 enhances the new deployment option of easier management and deployment of the large pool of the clusters. So this new architecture is called the clusterware, and more member of the cluster provide the many services which can utilize by the 4 types of the members. So there are 4 types of member clusters. Next part is cluster high speed interconnect. In Oracle cluster application, real application cluster, that is RAC environment, all of the instances communicate through the high speed interconnect on the private network. The interconnect enables all the instances to be synced in accessing the data. So you can use the Oracle Enterprise Manager Interconnect page to monitor the speed, and you can monitor the Oracle clusterware environment. So using the OEM tool, you can monitor this interconnect details, and then cluster underscore interconnect parameter can be used to override the default interconnect with preferred clusterware traffic network. And this parameter is useful in data warehouse system that has reduced the availability requirement, higher interconnect bandwidth demands. Okay, next is what are the benefit of integrating the Oracle clusterware architecture. Your application is more scalable. Again, your application can be more scalable. If you need more power, just add one node. Okay, you can also reduce your total cost ownership, your infrastructure management, and low cost hardware. In case of the problems, you have the ability to fail over the one of the node to another node. Okay, that is what we have discussed earlier. Also, you can increase the throughput on demand for clusterware applications. One more times, increasing the clusterware resource by adding the server to your cluster. Increase the throughput for the cluster aware application by clusterware application by enabling the application to run on all the nodes. This is one of the points. So you can easily program a startup of the application is planned order. So in that way, you can ensure dependent processes are started in the correct sequences. Next is ability to monitor the process and restart them in if they stopped. With the RAC architecture, you can eliminate the single point of failure, that is called SPOF, and then unplanned downtime due to the hardware or the software. Finally, you can also eliminate the planned downtime or software maintenance. Okay, this is the entire topic about the benefits of using the Oracle clusterware architecture. We'll discuss the RAC background process in the next lecture. For the time being, we are stopping this here. Thank you, everyone. If you are new to my channel, just don't forget to subscribe this channel, and you can also follow me on the Facebook. And thanks for watching again. Bye bye.